It's the vibes. Where's that family? Big up yourself, live up yourself, Selah, Shalom in the building. I'll be with you shortly. Yes, family. It's the vibes. Big up yourself, large up yourself. Where's it? Yahweh Messiah. Napdeezy. Apollo, I see you. Sankofa. Champion Sword. It's the vibes. Real. Does Oahspe speak circumcision? Yes, it does. It's the vibes. The circumcision was a token to women to know and identify the chosen people. The mark of circumcision was for the woman. It's the vibes. Mike, I see you. Demetrius, I see you. Peace, King. Shalom, family. It's the vibes. You know how we do. You know how we get this thing started. You know how we get this thing started. Selah Shalom TV, according to the text, as it is written. It's the vibes. Where you say, family? Lodge up yourself. It's your host, Selah Shalom. You know what I mean? In the building once again. We here another day. We outside. You know what I mean? So, you know, I just came back from making a run, but I left here to go leave out. As I'm leaving out, bust a left out the neighborhood, run down the street, bust a right. Bam! What I see? Tape wrapping, Fox 5, shell casings, police cars. I'm like, damn. Another brother dropped. Somebody got murked around the corner from where I live at, yo. So as I'm driving by, I see the Fox 5 and I see the gun casings on the ground like it was a shooting, you know what I mean? I seen like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe like 8 casings on the ground. So, you know what I mean? The drudge's spirits out here is working fearlessly. Because lately all over, it's been a lot of killing and a lot of shooting going on in Atlanta and all over the city. So the spirits of darkness is working heavily right now. Them drudge's spirits, inspiring mortals to wickedness, inspiring mortals to evil, death and destruction. Yeah. Not too long after that, somebody else got knocked right at that same store. That's why I say Atlanta's ugly. Peters, what's good? I see you. Been recapping the wars against Jehovah, yeah. Yup, the wars against Jehovah is a key point in the book. Is a key point in the Oahspe. The book of wars against Jehovah is why we in the conditions we in today. That's where it started from, that time period. That's why it's called a book of wars against Jehovah. Because at that time, they was going against Jehovah. The angels, and then the angels inspired the deity. I mean, the angels inspired mortals. You know what I mean? The wars against Jehovah is when they changed the creator from a omnipotent creator to a mortal man. Yes, yes, yes. What we got here? Look like it's an Atlanta ugly scene. Yeah, for real, King. For real, yo. If I wasn't busy, I probably would have went and got the cameras and got some of that footage for some backdrop. Because I did that a couple times in the show. I had some backdrops, like real actual situations, and I got the backdrop. I spin the block, came back, and just got the footage. I'm like, damn, this shit real, yo. You know what I mean? Just had a spirit birth around the corner, yo. See that? Somebody had just born into the heavens just now, yo. Let's see something. See if I can adjust that. Let me see that ashtray from me. You gotta took the ashtray. Let me see it.
Ashtray right
Where? Oh. Said, no wonder you keep them two eagles, you silly. You know, I'm not a gun dude like that. You know what I mean? I like to collect. I just like the Desert Eagle because I was always fascinated with them Desert Eagles from teenage years. Them 50 cal Desert Eagles. And then them shits was made in Israel, you know what I mean? Them shits was Middle Eastern guns, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, okay. We got some Jerusalem guns in this motherfucker. Let me get some of the goddamn Jesus guns and the sons of the David guns. They got the Masada. The Jericho. And Jerichos are sick too. That's what I was trying to tell Kat. Just because you got a gun don't mean you a criminal, don't mean you are going to commit murder. You know what I mean? It's the same way as having a knife in your kitchen. That knife is just as deadly as the weapon or a gun if somebody comes in your house. If you ain't got a gun, I guarantee you somebody breaking your shit, you're going to run and get a knife or any object to protect your monkey ass. Because that's the real world. That's the variables of life. That's what I was clearing up in the Oahspe reading verses where the Creator tells you that you will face evil on your own account. Meaning to say, you will have to use wisdom and discernment on how to deal with the situation, regardless of how fierce the situation is. You know what I mean? You ain't always gonna come out on top. Yes, I. He said Tomb Raider pistol, you are. Shalom. But yeah, though, the spirits is definitely working. They're definitely working right now. Young boy got knocked, you know what I mean? Spirits born in chaos, the angels of heaven receiving affliction. Now, just like the brother got shot up the street and killed just now, what happens if the person that shot him said, I was inspired by God to do this. God told me to do this. God said, yo, start knocking off the non-believers. Now, that'll be the Muslims right there. The Muslims, their doctrine is if you're a non-believer, you get X'd out. But nowhere really in the Oahspe, if you don't accept the Creator, Jehovah, you're not gonna get knocked off. Followers of the Creator gonna knock you off for not following a God. But a lot of these gods, when they got established, it was knocking heads off to get established, yo. Christianity knocked off plenty heads to get established. Islam, same thing, like with most doctrines. Landon, was good? Peace, Lord. Peace, Adonai. Shalom, Adonai. Shalom, Adonai is peace, Lord, in Hebrew. See that? Simple thing that. Like always, I ain't got no particular topic. I just want to hop on, just answer some Q&As. If y'all got some questions, just throw them in the chat. Matter of fact, the brother asked about circumcision. Let me give you the understanding of circumcision from the Oahspe and why circumcision was given. Interesting you bring that up. Let me see if I can find circumcision. Boom, boom. It's a vibes. It's definitely a vibes. The Bedouin asks about the circumcision. Matter of fact, let me go in the index. See if, test this book out. Test these publishers out. See if they got it in the index. And sure enough, they got it. 3820. I was one page from it. Now you asked about circumcision. Now here's some insight concerning circumcision from the Oahspe. This is the first book of the First Lords. First book of the First Lords. Let me see where I want to start at. I'm going to start at verse 18. So if you got your Oahspe, first book of the First Lords, chapter 1, starting from verse 18, the purpose of circumcision, according to the Oahspe. And woman, being more helpless than men, cried out with fear, saying, O Lord, how shall I bring forth unto thee, and not unto the sons of death? So the woman is asking a question. How do I know to bring forth hairs unto you, and not hairs unto darkness? How shall I recognize the man to know which man is inspired of the Creator, through the Lord, or is inspired through darkness? So verse 20. No, verse 19. The Lord said, because thou hast brought forth in pain, meaning childbearing, and yet called on my name, behold, I will be unto thee as a shield and a protector. For I will also put a mark upon the ions, my chosen. So thou shalt know them when they come unto thee. So the Creator, or the Lord here is telling the woman, I'm going to be a shield and a protector, and I'm going to give you a mark upon my chosen, so you'll know when they come upon you, or when you see them. Verse 20. And the Lord commanded the male ions, old and young, to be circumcised, that women may not be deceived by the drunks. And the ions circumcised one another, old and young. For it was the testimony of the Lord unto woman, that seed of their seed was born to everlasting life. So right there was the point of circumcision. It was a sign for the women from the chosen. It was a commandment from the Lord to the chosen to circumcise. So it'll be a sign for the woman to know that this is the token, this is the sign that we know that you are of the Lord. And then, we have circumcision coming on down the line. You know about circumcision with the Bible and stuff like that. But it's interesting how Oahspe got its concept of circumcision and its purpose and reasoning. Kenneth was good. Shalom. Mineralite brother. That's right. The Mineralite brotherhood. You know what I mean? Mineralite brotherhood in the chat. That's dope. We got our circuit. We got a private organization, the Mineralite brotherhood, where we discern and talk about mineralites. But no, though. But that's the answer to that concerning circumcision. Drunks came. That's right. See, what the false gods is took pieces, partial parts of the truth, magnified it, theorized it, modified it, theorized it, and changed it up through the ages. That's what they did. So there's some validity, but you know, they twisted it so bad that until you get the revelation to clear it up, it's like, damn, you're gonna be lost, hook, line, and sinker. Mic check. Yeah, so let me light my spliff. I'm still boggled, Joe. It be a lot going on in the world. Time I turn on the TV, something going on. I'm like, God damn, boy. Judgment is rendered against warfare. Niggas is going hard body in a warfare. Engaging in warfare. See, engaging in warfare is where the danger come at, because if you get caught out there slipping and get killed, spiritually you be born in chaos. You don't want that for yourself. But you may not even want it for yourself and end up in that predicament, and you ain't have no intentions of being there. This is why the Creator said you got to face evil on your own account. You got to know the extremes of good and evil in order to attain the Godhead. I was like, damn. Jehovah ain't playing no games. He said you got to know the extremes of good and evil to even obtain the Godhead. So if you sitting as God, boy, you got some rank under your belt. Like, to me personally, like Osiris in the Oahspe, Osiris the first in the Oahspe, I believe when he was a man in corporeal flesh, he was a goddamn killer, yo. For those who read the Oahspe and know the story of Osiris the first in the Oahspe knows what I'm talking about. He was a commander in God. He played no games, yo. Severe commander in God. So I could imagine how he was in the flesh. He probably was a great general, slaughtering many. You know what I mean? Got redeemed and still kept that mentality, but now it's in a redemptive process. In a redemptive process to uplift mortals and expose the false gods. Like, he wasn't playing no games with the false gods. Osiris the first wasn't playing no games. See, my channel is about the Oahspe, so if you come on and you don't know the Oahspe, you're gonna be lost like a motherfucker. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? You gotta backtrack and see what he's talking about, or you gotta get the revelation to understand what's going on. This the first fruit right here. We trying to be guides, not soldiers. That's right. Right. We not standing with standing armies. You know what I mean? Yes, sir. So if you got some questions, throw some questions in the chat. Raise some questions. Raise some challenges. What you got? What you got? This the time to raise them right here. This the time to raise the challenges. All that shit I be talking on Facebook and shit about your biblical God being false. Raise some questions. Let me drop it in the chat. Let them know I'm live.
Part of the reason why I love being a saint.
Cause it survives. Yes, family. Let me tell my Facebook family I'm online. Let them chime in. Can you touch communicating with angels? No doubt. You can definitely touch on that whole fallback.
I know that.
Yeah, I can definitely touch on that. Can you touch on communicating with the angels? Now, there's a system in order on communicating with the angels. Every human being has a guardian angel. Your Bible doesn't talk about guardian angels, but the Oahspe elaborates on guardian angels. This is how when they talk about, just hypothetically speaking for the Bible, when they talk about the book of life and everybody was recorded in the book of life, everybody's soul was, if you're not in the book of life, you get thrown out or whatever. Well, your guardian angel is there to record your entire life from your birth to your death. Now, some guardian angels have shifts, meaning like it's not just one guardian angel from your birth to your death. It may be several guardian angels overwatch during your lifetime. But the duty of the guardian angel is to observe your actions, take notes, and they're there with you. You know what I mean? They doesn't have to be presently, physically there with you, spiritually, like they standing right there, because we read in the book of divinity, or in the primary educations of the first and second resurrection in the Oahspe, where it talks about how you could read vibrational frequencies from places remote and pick up on the conversation and not be there. So your guardian angel necessarily doesn't have to be standing in your presence, but essentially they're there as well. They do stand in your presence, or they could be far away, but they're assigned to you. Just like when you have a child, you are assigned to that child from its birth to its death, or to your death, or however the case may be, but you assign. That's your task. So the guardian angels is the same way. That's their task. And the guardian angels is the ones who communicate with you. They talk the words of the Creator to you. So that soul, that voice of soul within yourself, when you hear that inner voice is your guardian angel communicating with you. And then the guardian angel is taking orders from the Lord, and then the Lord is taking orders from the Lord God, and then Lord God is taking orders from God. So if your guardian angel is in tune with the Creator, the message you get from your guardian angel will be the message of the Creator, revealed through your soul. That voice within, when you want to go left and your voice is telling you to go right, that's your guardian angel guiding you. That's why it's called a guide. So if you're walking down the street and you get a feeling to go on the other side of the street, that's your guardian angel within you, or your soul within you speaking. You have your own personal discernment, but they could make you aware. Be like, yo, nigga, go this way. You know what I'm saying? You pick up on it and you respond, but they're not telling you verbally like that. It's a voice within it. You just got to be able to pick up on it. It's a silent voice. It's a silent voice, and that shit speaks to you. Some people call it speaking to themselves. That's exactly what it sounds like, you talking to yourself. Because you can't distinguish the angel. Because they're using your voice to speak through you. So you can't distinguish it. So when you listen to your inner voice, it sounds like you talking. But that's the angel talking or expressing through you. So every human being has a guardian angel. And that's how the angels communicate with their subjects. Their subjects being the mortal human beings, me, you, every person. If there's 8 billion people on the planet, that's 8 billion guardian angels over those 8 billion mortals. And when those 8 billion people die, those guardian angels takes the record and the spirit of the dead to the angels that will receive the spirits of the dead to place them in the localities in the heavenly kingdoms for their resurrection. See that? The Oahspe lays out the heavenly kingdom so we can just spew the shit out like it ain't nothing. And then back to a chapter and verse, but I'm just giving it to you off the dome right now. We trying to be guys. Oh yeah, we soldiers. Yeah, no doubt. Achang or Anuba did a great works before he turned on the Creator. Yeah, a lot of them brothers was doing great works before they turned on the Creator. Even Luamong and them, like Luamong, Kabalistic and Inuxa, they was doing great works. Even when they strayed away, they was still striving to do great works before they actually became false gods. So yeah, Anuba was the keeper of the scales. Even in the ancient Egyptian text. But the ancient Egyptian text got the Anuba the false, but like in the ancient Egyptian text when it shows Anuba, let's go to Anubis right quick. This is the ancient Egyptian papyrus of the Judgment Hall of Ma'at. And that's Anubis right there with the dog head. That's him bringing in. So that's, see, in this depiction, Anubis is playing the guardian angel for Hanifa. Hanifa is the one in the white garment. That's the name of that person, Hanifa. And Anubis is being the guide, bringing Hanifa in. And then the individual mortal, being guided by the angel, being Anubis, is sent to the judges to be judged. And then as the mortal is being judged by the judges above, you notice Anubai now is by the scales. So as he's being judged, Anubai is weighing the scales or observing the scales to see if his heart is balanced on the scale of Ma'at. And if his heart is not balanced on the scale of Ma'at, that creature that you see, the Ammon, is there to devour the soul. But if his heart is balanced, then he will pass the scale, he will pass the judges, and as you see with Haru. But before he gets to Haru, you see Tahuti taking note. Tahuti is taking note from the scale. So as Anubai is weighing the scale, Tahuti is taking note of the scale as the mortal Hanifa is being judged above. And then as you notice, Hanifa passes, his heart is balanced, and he passes the task. And he is entering one with Osiris. Because if you see Haru or Horus, he's pointing to Osiris as if to say, you could enter the kingdom now. And Osiris is what? Sitting on the throne. Don't they say God sit on the throne? See, this is where the earliest concepts of the heavenly kingdoms came from Osiris and Egypt, and of course the Sumerian tablets. So there you have it, beloved. A quick breakdown of the heavenly spiritual afterlife dealing with Anubai, being the guardian angel. You dig? You dig? Anubai collected the souls. When he weighed the souls, he judged them. Cast your ass in hell if your ass wasn't right. You're not supposed to pedestalize the lords or gods. Only give them thanks. That's right, exactly. War or precept. Nap Deezy, what's good, King? I see you. Yo. I seen you cruising early on Facebook, riding, smoking, enjoying life, my nigga. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Don't let nobody steal your joy, King. You know what I mean? Don't let nobody steal your joy. So yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. These gods, these GODs, is the one who set up these kingdoms to imprison you if they're not in the ways of the Creator. If the angel is in the ways of the Creator, then it's all good. But if he's not, we got a problem. We got a problem. Because see, when angels are not in the ways of the Creator, they hostile towards Jehovah. Because they're trying to prove to Jehovah that they the Creator. So they be hostile towards the followers of Jehovah. They try to kill off the followers of Jehovah. So there'll be no evidence of somebody saying, look, there go the worshipers of the Creator. But I thought he was the one. I thought this God was the only one God, but you're telling me there's another God? You see what I'm saying? That's what happens when false gods get exposed. They followers start getting echoes of these things like, oh man, he said he was the true and living, he lied to us. So when you follow a God, so ask somebody in the Bible, like, if you believe in God, what happens when you die? Do you go to God? Do you sit in the grave? Where does the spirit go after you die if you were Christian and you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in God? Do you just wander off and just be anywhere? Or are you collected by other spirits who believed like that previous to your existence, and they take you to a place prepared for those in that belief system? So now, in the book of Thor, son of Jehovah, chapter 1, verse 12, and many of these heavenly kingdoms there are war and anarchy, hells, where the angels torment one another endlessly. Nor will these false gods and false lords and their subjects admit that there are higher heavens than their own. See that? They locked in. They think their heavenly kingdom is the only heavenly kingdom. That's like New Yorkers thinking ain't nothing outside of New York, it's just New York, and they just ignorant to the fact that there's other states. That's the mind state of these false gods and their followers. But here they're engaging in war in this particular verse. But here is the catcher right here in verse 13. The spirits of the newly dead are captured and kept in ignorance of Jehovah and his vast creation, but made to bow down in adoration and worship to the false Lord or false God, And these again, being contiguous to mortals, inspire them to the same worship, which fits them in the time of death to fall as slaves into the dominion of him whom they worshipped. See that? Whoever you worship, if there's a system, a religious system set up, that been set up for eons, that will go to show you that when you cross over in spirit, you're going to be subjected to them. Those spirits who passed on previous to you. Just like the verse there, you're going to be captured and kept in ignorance in Jehovah's ways. You're going to be made to bow down in adoration to these false gods. And what else it say? And then it says mortals is going to be inspired by these angels. And then it said, which fits them at the time of death to fall as slaves into the dominions of whom they worship. So that's why it's dangerous to follow these false gods, because they're going to keep you in ignorance. Just discovered Anubis and the Oahspe, discovered Osiris the first and the Oahspe, not the false one. Osiris gave us enough faith. Yes, eyes. And see, that's the beauty about the Oahspe. You got Osiris the first, that came in the 21st arc cycle after the creation of man. And then you got the Osiris the false of Egypt that came in the 23rd arc cycle. So Oahspe explained these things and breaks them down. So now, in verse 14 states, and the wars in heaven have inspired mortals to war on earth, so that all around the world everlasting battles are going on. So it shows you that the wars in heaven have inspired mortals to war on earth. So how do you know if there's war going on in heaven? By mortals battling on earth. See that? As above, so below. The spirit expressed. The spirit is expressed through the flesh. So that's how you know what's going on in the spiritual world, because it's played out in the flesh. So if mortals is going to war, if Ukraine and Russia go into war, what did it say? The wars in heaven inspired mortals to go to war. So if Russia trying to move into Ukraine, that means the heavenly realm over Russia is trying to move in on the heavenly realm in Ukraine. As above, so below. So there's war in heaven in that region. And you already know in Iraq, Afghanistan, the whole Middle East been at war since forever. Since we came over here and became aware through social media of the Middle East, it's been war. It's been war ever since we know it over there. Those wars is endless. Lula, what's good? I see you. So fit, spiritual light, I see you. How are we going to stop endless supply of souls going to Jesus, aka Luamon? How can we stop? By doing things like this. Exposing the doctrine, exposing the word. A lot of people told me like, yo, watching your videos, man, I couldn't realize that, I was following the false gods in the Bible, and they started converting. So this is a thing that is going to be enduring for a long time. So this is long suffering. Luamon started these things back, and Luamon got his start back in the, Luamon's first impact on the planet was with Ezra when he compiled the Tanakh. That was Luamon's foothold on the planet. That's when his presence was on the earth, when he inspired Ezra to compile the Tanakh. The Tanakh is Luamon's inspiration. So the Tanakh was inspired by Luamon. So that's that's like 4th, 5th century BC. So you got all this long length of history that these false gods been diverting the minds of mortals. And now, in 1880, we get the revelation from the Creator exposing what these false gods did. So we're not even 200 years in trying to expose these gods. And nobody really know about the Oahspe. A lot of people don't know about this book yet. For the time this book been out since 1880, it's still an underground book. It's a book that not too many people, even the greatest of so-called minds, great minds, scholars, Malachi Yorks, all them niggas ain't know about the Oahspe. Malachi York did not know about the Oahspe. If he would have got his hands on that book, oh man, he would have had a total different outlook from the way he was going at his things with the Nubian nation. And then another thing, King, so like you say, how we gonna, you know what I mean, supply the souls going to Jesus? Like, the people who ain't gonna be listening to people like us telling them about exposing this false God, they're gonna go to that heavenly kingdom of Jesus. And they're gonna be exposed there. That's when they're gonna find out that it ain't what it is, and that's why it's the followers of the heavenly kingdoms that turn on their follower. And then the heavenly kingdoms turn into anarchy and rioting, and becomes a hell. It's the followers of the false God that's going to turn on them. It ain't like true God sending a host of angels in there to go to war with the false gods to clear things up. Nah, true God and his host, we over here like this. We just watching. The same way we on the outskirts right now watching Christianity, the same way we on the outskirts now watching Islam, and you got sects of Islam fighting with each other. You got sets of Christianity that don't get along with each other. And we, the followers of the Creator, just looking at this shit like, yo, these niggas wildin', yo. When they gonna get it right? So, the duty is on them. Like the verse stated. Look what the last line stated in verse 13. Which fits them in the time of death to fall as slaves into the dominion of him whom they worshipped. So the responsibility and the accountability is on you because you chose to worship that deity and you became subservient to that God because you didn't do your homework. Sounds like low among low frequency. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Oahspe made me put down the holy tablets. That's right. Lincoln Hawkins was good. Yeah, me and my man, yeah, the tablets, yeah, because the tablets ain't nothing but a compilation of a whole bunch of shit that he got from like what's that, Stitchins, the one who translated or so-called translated the Sumerian tablets. See, Malachi York was he was available to them tablets before the turn of the century or the turn of the millennium, so he had a head start with it. He was talking about Incan and Lil in the 90s. He was talking about that shit back then. Because I remember them, they used to be downtown Atlanta. And we used to be building with them. And they used to have their books. And we used to be looking through the books, looking at the pictures, seeing the different reptilians and all this shit. We used to be like, man, these niggas wild. You know what I mean? But they had some validity to their argument indeed. But it ain't got nothing against the Oahspe, of course. Yeah, that Jackie Chain called the one, no doubt. True God doesn't choose, he serves. Here's the service done unto others. The strategy of true God is the service done unto others, and methods and strategies on how to raise man up out of darkness and ignorance. So he has a load on him. So do us, because our duty is his duty. You know what I'm saying? If God gives the command, then we all on the same page. We all got to do the works. We all got to put it out. You dig? Jet Li the one, no doubt. Yeah, though. So that's what we dealing with, yo. Verse 15 states, and such as are slain on earth battlefields are born in spirit in chaos, not knowing they are dead. Now that is key right there. It's actually telling you that those slain on the battlefield, when they get killed, they don't know that they dead. Now consider that for a second. Consider all the soldiers on the battlefield right now. American soldiers. Think about all the American soldiers that went across sea and died in battle. And the book just said, they don't know that they dead. How you don't know that you dead? So you in battle and blah, 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 you get hit, you get shot. You like, oh man, in your mind, like, all right, this is it, I'm about to die. I know I ain't gonna survive this. And then you in spirit. But I guess that's why they say they don't know that they dead. Because see, the thin line between death and life is that the life after death, you still alive. You just outside of this body. It's like in a dream. You know when you have a dream and you in that world, in that reality? It's just like that. Consider that the spirit where you're not in your physical body. You somewhere else. You in the realm. You in a holographic reality. You know what I mean? You in the spiritual realm. So it's just like that, yo. It's just like that. You don't want to be a goddamn lingering spirit on the battlefield engaging in warfare, not knowing that you goddamn dead. So like the verse states, and such as are slain on the earth battlefield are born in spirit in chaos, not knowing they are dead as to earth life. And so they linger on the battlefields, still battling imaginary foes. Now I just told y'all earlier somebody got killed up the street. Fox 5 News, all that on there. It was a shooting. So consider that. Consider the person who got killed. It states, it states that such as are slain. So somebody got slain up the street on the earth in the battlefield. It's not necessarily a battlefield, but if you're shooting, that's a small engagement like battle. So he says, those that are slain on the earth battlefield are born in spirit in chaos. So he got slain, but he got hit. Oh, he's panicking now, realizing he's dying. His spirit is born in chaos. He's bewildered. He's just shocked. And then what? Not knowing they are dead. So although he's dead, he's still conscious. Because like I said, the life after death is a thin line. You conscious, you just as alert as you are right now. Still battling imaginary foes. Verse 16. All over the earth are these battlefields covered with the spirits in chaos. See that? All over the earth. It's been wars all over the earth, on all continents. Africa, Europe, Asia, India, Japan, North, South America, all these lands, it's been battle and warfare where people has been slaughtered in battle. Spirits born in chaos still lingering on the battlefield. Can you imagine seeing lingering spirits from the Confederate War? That'll be crazy. Because it survives. Let me get some to drink real quick, family. Let's vibes. Back at it. So the question was asked, the Kabalistic. You know what? I used to have the chart, the Kabbalah chart back in the day. You know what I mean? It was a big ass chart I used to have. I used to study and, you know what I mean? They had the Hebrew writings and all that. But all that is Babylonian, you know what I mean? Esoteric. It ain't really showing and proving on spiritual progression. They're just talking about the angels, the different angels and their positions, and you know what I mean? It ain't really telling you nothing like that. It's supposed to be a blueprint of the temple of the body and all that. Yeah, I studied all that, but it ain't really going on. You ain't really going nowhere with that. You hear me loud and clear now? Yes, I see a lot of music still on, bro. Yeah, I got y'all. Mary, what's good? Let's talk about what is going on right now with the abortion or murder of children. Talk about that, please. So many confused about this subject. What about abortion or murder of children? Yeah. You know, even in the Bible, they was trying to kill off the firstborns in Egypt. Pharaoh, his firstborn son, babies and all that. See, the Oahspe talks about children that die, abortions or fetuses. You know, you may be 6 months pregnant and you may lose the child. 3 months pregnant and lose the child. But the beautiful thing about the Oahspe is that those souls are not lost. Those souls just don't dissipate and just die off back in the thin air. Those souls continue to grow in spirit. They just don't experience a physical life. And the Oahspe touches on that, about how they grow in spirit. So although they're destitute as to physical life, they grow in spirit and mature, understanding the spiritual realm. So they progress in the spiritual realm no different than us when we cross over. So if a baby dies 3 months, that baby is going to be nurtured, taken care of spiritually speaking, and it's going to continue to progress. But their duration of time is going to be way much longer, of course. It's just like a premature child. It needs more taken care of before it could actually be considered a regular child. That's why the premature baby's got all the tubes running through it. It needs tender care. So same thing with the aborted babies, same thing with the infants that die. They need tender care because they didn't even get a chance to comprehend, period. See, we're dealing with learning and comprehension. We have to learn our alphabets, learn our ABCs in order for us to even comprehend anything. If we didn't have language, we'll be just as destitute as the animals. We would be no different than the animals if we didn't have means to communicate. Language is to communicate. So the children that die in infancy don't have reasoning, they don't have logic, they don't have no rationale. They're just destitute. They're just there. It's just like an infant baby when it comes out the womb. It doesn't have no language. It don't know nothing. It's just there. It's being developed. So it's the same thing spiritually. It's the same thing spiritually with the infants. I'm going to touch on a verse where it talks about when infants die young, their condition at the time prior to them developing their senses spiritually, because they're taught same way they would be taught if they grew up in the physical world. So when a baby comes into the world, it starts learning objects and symbols and things of that nature when it's old enough to start pronouncing word alphabet sounds and like that. So the spirit infant will grow just same way spiritually. It'll be taught in the spiritual realm. And then as it becomes an adult and mature in the spiritual realm, it'll come a time when the Creator will send them down to a corporeal earth or a corporeal planet to learn corporeal things. So they will eventually get a time to experience a physical life like how we experience it now, although they didn't get it during their time when they were supposed to be corporeally born. So it's deep in the Oahspe. It shows these variables. It shows all these these questions that you have about abortion, it shows you that they got answers for it in the Oahspe. So right here, let me see, like, for example. Alright. It says here, this is the Book of Wars against Jehovah. I mean, not the Book of Wars. I keep saying that. I love that book. This is the Book of Judgment, chapter 32. We're going to start with verse 3. Now I declare unto thee, there are angels lower than the first resurrection, being incapacitated from various causes, from knowing who they are, meaning they don't know who they are, whence they came, or whither they are going. Yea, many of them know not words or speech, nor signs, nor token, but are as destitute of knowledge as young babies. So they're telling you that there's spirits out there that they don't know who they are, they don't know where they're going, where they're coming, they don't have words or speech, just like I described. These are conditions of people who have not come into the physical world and was able to give it a chance to get learning and comprehension. They died destitute. They died stillbirths, abortions, miscarriages. Those souls are what the book is talking about here. So if we cross over as adults with comprehension, our spiritual birth is going to be much different than an infant. Because see, we have comprehension. So with our spirit, we're able to navigate and comprehend. If a person comes to us, we can communicate, such as that. But if an infant crosses over in the spirit world, there's no communication. It'll be just as you trying to communicate with an infant now, trying to talk to it. You can't communicate. It hasn't learned logic and reasoning and communication through language yet. So now it states that, let me read that verse again. Now I declare unto thee, there are angels lower than the first resurrection, being incapacitated from various causes, from knowing who they are, whence they came, or where they are going. And many of them know not word, speech, nor sign, nor token, but are as destitute of knowledge as young babies. And here's the catch of verse 4. Many of them died in infancy. See that? Coming to your question. Many of them died in infancy. Some of them were killed by abortion. Some of them were idiots. Some of them were deranged. So right there is showing you in the Oahspe, in the Book of Judgment, chapter 32, verse 3 and 4, is showing you the conditions of the spirits of infants and aborted ones when they cross over. So again, it says, many of them died in infancy, some of them were killed in abortion. And what was their condition? Being incapacitated with various causes, from knowing who they are, whence they came, whither they going. And many of them knew not words, or speech, nor sign, nor token. So that's the catcher right there. They knew not words. So an infant don't know words. So when you start learning words and you start comprehending. You know what I mean? Comprehension is a big factor of learning. And progression. So these are infants, miscarriages and abortions, children, spirits that were not given the opportunity and a chance to learn these things. So that's the condition of infants, newborn, when they cross over. But they don't stay in those conditions. They continue to be taught and educated and grow in spirit. So just as I described the spirits of the infants and aborted ones, that they are actually still growing in spirits, but that's just the condition at the time of death. So when you go to the book of Santantes now, when the angels came to the earth, and those angels took upon flesh, those angels were infants and aborted ones who never lived a corporeal life, and this is their first time living a corporeal life. See if we can get that. Let's get that verse right quick, right here. In the book of Jehovah, chapter 7. In the book of Jehovah, chapter 7. Wait, hold up. No, that's not it. Let me see. Now, let me get where the angels appeared. Where we at with it? And there I lightened upon the earth. That verse. No, it's over here. What that verse said. We're going to talk about the infants. The angel infants, the ones who died in infancy. Oh. Oh, hold on. Let me see that. All right, boom. I found it. Was looking right at it the whole time. Hold on. Hey, babe. So check it. So we just described the nature of aborted and infant children, their spiritual conditions after death. They continue to grow spiritually, but those are the conditions after death. They're destitute of knowledge. But eventually they grow and mature in spirit, although they have a lack of corporeal knowledge. So in the book of in the book of Jehovah, in the book of Jehovah, chapter 6, there we go, verse 12, here's the catcher. I looked over the wide heavens that I made, and I saw countless millions of spirits of the dead that lived and died on other corporeal worlds before the earth was made. Verse 13, I spoke into the firmament, and my voice reached to the utmost places, and there came an answer to the sounds of my voice, myriads of angels from the roadways in heaven, where the earth traveled. And I said unto them, behold, a new world have I created. Come ye and enjoy it, and ye shall learn from it how it was with other worlds ages past. See that? So it's just like how, we may want to know, like, I wonder how it was during the time of Adam and Eve. We think about like how it was with, Adam in the beginning, or the beginning of man. Here's an opportunity for these angels to go see what it is. That's what this verse is saying. Like, I'm going to show you how it was with ages past. So although when the time you came on the planet, those things were thousands, 30, 40, 50,000 years old, but now I'm going to show you how it looked and how it is, and you're going to experience it. So here it states, he said, I looked over the heavens that I had made, and I saw countless millions of spirits of the dead that had lived and died on the other corporeal worlds before the earth was made. And I spoke in the firmament, and my voice reached to the utmost places, and there came an answer to the sounds of my voice, myriads of angels from the roadways of heaven, where the earth traveled. And I said unto them, behold, you know what? Let me give you the picture of the ark cycle where this is taking place, so we'll know what time this is, because this ain't just randomly happened out of thin air. This is during the ark of Wayne, the first ark cycle after the creation of man. Let me get that right here. What I'm reading is this time period. When the earth ended the first ark cycle, this is what I'm reading. These are the angels that enlightened on the new earth. So verse 13 states, I spoke in the firmament, and my voice reached to the utmost places, and there came an answer to the sound of my voice, myriads of angels from the roadways in heaven, where the earth traveled. I said to them, behold, a new world have I created. Come ye and enjoy it. Yeah, ye shall learn from it how it was with other worlds in past ages. Verse 14. Here's the catcher. There were lightened upon the earth millions of angels from heaven, but many of them had never fulfilled the corporeal life, having died in infancy. See that? That's the catcher. Having died in infancy. And what did we read earlier about when the infants die in infancy? They're destitute of corporeal knowledge. And then look what the next lines say. And these angels comprehended not procreation, no corporeal life. So the verse is saying that these angels that died in infancy comprehended not procreation nor corporeal life. You know why? Because they never lived a corporeal life, and this is their first time incarnating on the planet to experience a corporeal life. So these angels, they didn't come through the womb on the planet. They just materialized by the force of their own will, like the verse say. And later down it says that how they came about, how they willed themselves on the planet. So again, verse 14 states, there alighting upon the earth, there alighting upon the new earth, millions of angels from heaven. But many of them had never fulfilled the corporeal life, having died in infancy. And these angels comprehended not procreation nor corporeal life. So these angels did not understand the reproductive system, nor did they understand the corporeal life, meaning they didn't understand nature. This is their first time investigating nature, investigating water, and all these things. They never experienced a physical life, so everything is anew. And verse 15 states, and I said, go deliver Asu. This is the commandment for the angels that alighted upon the new earth. These angels that died in infancy, that don't understand procreation, that don't understand corporeality. This is the commandment that was given to them, which was, go and deliver Asu, or the Adamites, from darkness, for he shall also rise in spirit to inherit my Etherian worlds. Verse 16. So that was the purpose of the angels coming to man, to deliver man from darkness, because man was primitive in his thinking. Man was earthly in his thinking, like the animals, mimicking the animals, moving more animalistic in nature compared to moving more civil. So it said, go and deliver Asu from darkness, for he shall also rise in spirit to inherit my Etherian worlds. So like I said, that's the end game, to inherit the Etherian worlds. Now here's where the angels actually took upon bodily form, physical form, in verse 16 describes it. Now keep in mind, all this is taking place in that first arc cycle right there, the arc of one. All this is taking place here. Man is in darkness at this time. Man is created, but he's in darkness, meaning that he knows nothing about the Creator in the sense of comprehension. He has to be taught these things. So verse 16 states, now was the earth in the later days of Simu, and the angels could readily take on corporeal bodies for themselves. Out of the elements of the earth, which are the minerals, the mineralites, clothed they themselves by force of their wills with flesh and bone. By the side of the Adamites, or Asuans, took they on corporeal form. So verse 16 describes how the angels took upon physical form alongside the Adamites, or the primitive man. And how did they do it according to the scripture? How did they do it? How did they manifest? Where the verse at? By force of their own wills. You know, they try to say you don't have willpower, and the Oahspe is showing you that by the force of their own wills, they physically manifested themselves as flesh and bone. So if they physically manifested themselves as flesh and bone without going through the process of coming through the womb, they just incarnated. They didn't reincarnate, they incarnated. To incarnate is to make your spiritual body manifest physically. That's incarnation, coming from the unseen to the seen. But reincarnation is supposedly going through the womb again, being reborn, which is false doctrine. But incarnation is true indeed. You can incarnate indeed. That's truth. You can incarnate after death. You could spiritually sow your spiritual body, and it can look tangible and physical. So right here, these angels in the arc of one, the first arc cycle after the creation of man, these angels took upon physical bodies. Verse 16 again. And now was the earth in the later days of Simu. Simu is the time of creation. So where you see the earth at one, that's bordering the time of creation, coming into the inhabitable age. From 1 to 25, all that's the inhabitable age. But from 1 going backwards, would go into the time of Simu, the time of creation. So that's what the verse is saying when it states in the later days of Simu. Now was the earth in the later days of Simu, and the angels could readily take on bodily form for themselves. Out of elements of the earth clothed they themselves, by force of their wills, with flesh and bone. By the side of the Asuans took they on corporeal forms. So it says with flesh and bone. So it tells you right there that if they manifested in flesh and bone, that means they had to have blood circulating. Everything had to be, all the 12 systems of the human body would have had to been functionally working at this time when these angels manifested. And keep in mind, these angels that manifested are the same ones that died in infancy. So they physically manifest and open their eyes, seeing eye. This is their first time experiencing walking with their feet, you know what I mean? Looking and seeing waterfalls and rivers, you know, going in the water, see what it feel like to get wet, get a couple, you know, bumps and bruises, see what it feel like. That's what they experiencing. That's the angels' lesson for this point. They have these angels have two lessons: learning corporality, since they never experienced it in the physical, in their physical life. And then the next lesson was to raise up Asu out of darkness. Those were the two lessons given. But verse 17 states, and I said, go forth and partake of all that is on the earth. This is the angel, the archangel, or the Etherian angel, telling these angels that died in infancy, be mindful. So he said, go ye forth and partake of all that is on the earth, but partake ye not of the tree of life, lest in that labor ye become procreators, and as if dead to the heavens whence he came. So right here it's telling you that whatever you do, don't mess around with these women, because you're going to have children and offspring, and you're going to be bound to them, and you're not going to be able to ascend back to the Etherian realm whence you came, just to do this little quick work. You came how to do this quick work, and you ended up getting some baby mamas. Now you bound before you could ascend back or go back home into the Etherian realm. So that's what it's saying here. And the verse is clear. The tree of life is procreating, because Oahspe says what? But partake ye not of the tree of life, lest in that labor you become procreators. So the tree of life is referring to the reproductive system, because that's the only system in the body that procreates. And then verse 18 states, but those who had never learned corporeal things, like I said, these are the same ones who died in infancy, being imperfected in wisdom, comprehended not Jehovah's words, and they dwell with the Asuans, and were tempted. So, although the angels was told not to tamper with the tree of life, lest you become procreators, it said that the angels didn't comprehend it. They didn't understand what he was talking about. They're like, what are you talking about? Because this is their first time experiencing the corporeal life, so they don't know nothing about procreating and reproductive. So that law is void to them because they don't understand it. So again, verse 18 states, but those who had never learned the corporeal life, being imperfect in wisdom, comprehended not Jehovah's words, and they dwelt with the Asuans, or the Adamites, and were tempted and partook of the tree of life. What they mean when they partook of the tree of life, meaning now they became procreators. And lo and behold, they saw their own nakedness, meaning they saw their children, their offspring, their own flesh and bone. And they were born of the first race, Asu, a new race called man. And Jehovah took the earth out of the travel of Simu, and the angels gave up their corporeal bodies. So after the angels interbred, they gave up their corporeal bodies, becoming unseen to man. But the angels that interbred, keep in mind, they were flesh and bone. That means they would have all the 12 system, and they would have had to have a blood type. That's why I say the old blood type would have to be the blood type of the angels, because that's the only blood type they consider foreign to the planet. The animal kingdom blood type is mainly A, B, but O they consider O as a foreign blood type from the planet. And that'll be the blood type of the angels, because they the ones, when they incarnated themselves with flesh and bone, and they don't have no ties to the earth genetically from the animal kingdom, what better for their blood to be O, because that's a universal blood type, universal don that they can get at anybody, because they're not tied to the animal kingdom. The angels that manifested themselves not tied to the animal kingdom in that sense.
But that's just some background on the nature of the spirits that die in infancy and how they grow in spirit and then how they're sent to a corporeal world, being ignorant to the corporeal world, interbred with the women, had offspring, and these offsprings were basically a mixed breed between man and angel. But that's a whole nother topic. Sharice, what's good? Kevin Spears, I see you. I'm O blood type. Yep, I'm O blood type too, yo. You got O positive, O negative. Like O negative is the real form blood type. That's the real alien blood right there. Yeah, we can only take from O. O can only take from O, but O can give to everybody. So that's why I say the angel's blood type at that time would have had to have been O, but would have had to have been universal. RH is the rhesus blood, the rhesus monkey. You know what I mean? They'll talk about the RH blood, the rhesus monkey, the positive. So like we actually particle, we animal, we mammal. We mammal, we reptile, we all part of the animal kingdom. Like in the Oahspe, it talks about man as a product of all animals. We are the top animal. Nigga, we got all the species compiled up of one. We got hawk, eagle, cat, goddamn alligator, we got everything. We got mammals. We mammal and reptile conjoined, right? Mainly mammal though. Because reptiles have eggs, we don't have eggs. We incubate in the womb. That's what mammals do. But reptiles don't incubate like that. They lay eggs. We don't lay eggs, so we mammals. So I'm gonna go in the Oahspe where it talks about man as a compilation of all things, of all preceding animals. And we have the instinct of every last one of them. That's what a kung fu, because they take the characteristics of the animal and show you in man through the martial arts. Through the martial arts, the arts of martial. Alright, let me find that verse where it talks about man being a product of all previous animal. So I speak cold bloody. Perfectly right there. Yes, man. Alright, where we at? The Book of Inspiration. Let's find that. Let me see if I can get in this one. Let me put this little buddy to work. Let me put you to work real quick. Let's see if I can find that again. Yeah. Book of Inspiration still. Alright, found it. See with the old book shit, just find shit. Alright, so check it. Alright, here we go. So this is in the Book of Inspiration, chapter 6, verse 17. Now coming back, because we're dealing with the creation of man right now. First we're dealing with aborted infancies, aborted seeds, miscarriages, and children that die in infancy, and how they grow in spirit, develop in spirit, but have a lack of physical knowledge because they didn't experience a physical knowledge. But then the Creator will send angels to earth to learn corporeal knowledge, and that's what took place at the beginning of the Ark of One, at the beginning of man's creation, that it was a set of angels sent to the earth to learn corporeal knowledge and to help lift man up out of darkness. That was their mission when they came to earth. But these angels never lived the corporeal life. So as soon as they physically manifested with flesh and bone, now they like learning that they like, okay, what's this they touching? Like, what's this solid objects? They doing this. They looking at each other. This their first time in a physical, tangible, flesh appearing body. So here is the physical makeup of man. So right here in the Book of Inspiration, chapter 6, we're going to start with verse 17. And when the earth was ripe for man, then I created him. Male and female created I those of the second creation. Interesting. Verse 18. And man was dumb like other animals, without speech and without understanding, even less than any other creature which I had created. So it's showing you the condition of man in the beginning. He didn't have speech. he didn't have understanding, because in order to have understanding, you got to have speech, you got to have comprehension, you got to have common sense and logic, and that comes rationalization, that comes with speech. So this is before man had speech, because just like a baby, when a baby comes into the world, it has to be taught speech. But it is a time that it don't know speech. This is the condition of man in the beginning, prior to him understanding language, prior to him even getting a language, or even be taught a language. So he says, man was dumb like other animals, without speech and without understanding, even less than any other creature which I had created. Verse 19, nevertheless I given to man, and thus made him, out of the dissolved elements of every living thing that had preceding him. See that? Let me read that again. Verse 19. Nevertheless, I had given to man, and thus made him, out of the dissolved elements of every living thing that had preceded him. Verse 20. And man partook of the first and second creation. What was the first creation? I'll get back to that after this. But it said man partook, meaning he is created out of the first and second creation. After the manner of every animal on the earth, so created I man. See that? Once again, let's read that. And man partook of the first and second creation, after the manner of every animal on the earth, so created I man, with all the characteristics of all of them. See that? So created I him, male and female created I them. And man was unconscious of his creation, not knowing whence he came, nor knew he which was his own species. So that's how docile and destitute man was in the beginning, just like a child, just like an infant child crawling on his belly. He don't know who he is. He ain't got knowledge of self yet, because he has to grow and he has to be taught those things as he progresses and grow. So it's showing you, Oahspe is showing you that at the beginning of man, this was his condition. That's why that was the purpose of the angels coming. Because it said, what was the purpose, the commandment given to the angels? To lift man out of darkness and rise him up to inherit, so he can inherit my ethereal realm. But it showed you this was the condition of man at the time. This is what the angels met when they landed on the earth in the Ark of Ron. When the host of Sethantes came with these angels that died in infancy. When these angels see Nasu, they partook. But so right here, so when the angels came, they came to a people that was unconscious of their creation. They were destitute as babies. It even describes in some verses where man was on their bellies, like crawling like babies. And the angels is looking at this shit like, well, goddamn, what the hell going on? Because see, we ain't seen the beginning yet. We haven't got a chance to bear witness how it looks when man was created in the beginning. We just got the remnants and the echoes and the stories of creation. But just imagine being witness and seeing the first races of mortals in these conditions of not knowing who they are, not having no speech, having no understanding, moving just like the animals. That's damn near like the gorilla and the monkey in them. You can't talk English to them niggas, you know what I mean? They animals. They can't, their brain is not made to comprehend that. So it was like that was the condition of man in the beginning. They were destitute of corporeal knowledge in the sense of knowing who the creator is or knowing who he is. Like, I know who I am. Like the conscience of knowing I am. That's something that has to be taught. You have to comprehend that and learn that. You just don't a baby don't come into the world not knowing who he is. He got to figure that shit out. So now, let's read that again, verse 20. And man partook of the first creation, the first and second creation, after the manner of every animal on the earth, so created I man, with all the characteristics of all of them, so created I him, male and female created I them. And man was unconscious of his creation, not knowing whence he came, nor knew he which was his own species. In verse 22, here's the catcher. And I sent angels to man to teach him who he was and to rouse him up to his capability for which I created him. See, the angels was there to teach man about his talents and capability, to rise him up, show you what you could do. You know what I mean? So what is the first creation that they talking about? Here's the first creation, because they talk about man partook of the second creation and the first creation. So here's the first creation. As we go up a couple verses. All right, let's start. This is the book of Inspiration, chapter 6. Let's start from verse 8. The lowest of the living creatures made I, the serpent, for I gave to him an element capable of destroying himself. Verse 9. When the earth was encircled with poisonous gases, I created poisonous veins. So we're talking pre-man. So let's go right here real quick. This is before the creation of man. The serpent was created before man, or the reptile species. Yeah, let me see. All right, let me come back to this. These are the arc cycles. All right, here we go. Time of creation. Yeah. So what you see here, this is the first age and the second age. The time of creation and the time of inhabitation. So the creation of man, as you see right there, is when the earth enters this plane, 99 Gadol degrees. When the earth enters there is when man was created. But prior to man's creation, let me see, hold on. So when we look at the 6th Gadol in the first age, prior to man's creation. So this is pre-man we talking here. This is the first creation. So again, let's go. Verse 8. The lowest of the living creatures made I, the serpent, for I gave to him an element capable of destroying himself. Verse 9. When the earth was encircled with poisonous gases, I created poisonous vines and weeds and trees with all kinds of herbs, rich growing upon the earth. Verse 10. Thus from destroying gases and from earth substance created I the vegetable worlds. And in that day all growing things upon the earth which I had created were poisonous as to animal life. See that? Although it's vegetation, but the vegetation it'll have to rise to a pH where it could be suitable to man. But it was a time where vegetation was poisonous, just like poison ivy you have in nature today. But this is pre-man. This is the preconditions prior to man. This is the earth getting ready, preparing itself for man's inhabitation. But this is how it was. The serpent was the creature or the reptile at this time, because a serpent could eat poisonous foods because it has a very strong tolerance for acid. So again, verse 10 states, thus from destroying gases and from earth substance created I the vegetable world. And in that day all growing things upon the earth which I had created were poison as to animal life. Verse 11. Then I created the serpent. Of all sizes created I them, and they were poisonous also. See that? Verse 12. And the serpent I created were carnivores, feeding upon one another, self-impregnating created I them. See that? So the Oahspe is giving you a idea of the condition of the earth pre-man, right before man. They talk about the serpent. In the Bible, it talks about the serpent in the garden. But here, they're not talking about a serpent in the garden. They're talking about an actual reptile that was prominent and dominant prior to man's creation. This is where probably the dragons and the concept of the dragons and these different things come from. So now, let me read that again. And the serpents I created were carnivorous, feeding upon one another, self-impregnating created I them. Thus drove I the poison of the air down into vegetables, and thence into the animal world. See that? See, the poisonous atmosphere was cleaned out. Once the atmosphere was cleaned out from the poisonous gases, it was driven down into the vegetable kingdom. And then from the vegetable kingdom, it was driven into the animal kingdom through poisonous reptiles, in a sense, because they're the ones that carried us the poison, like poisonous snakes. You get a snake bite, nigga, that shit is poisonous. A spider bite is poisonous. So he drove the poison into the animal kingdom. Thus I purified the air of heaven. See that? Again, verse 13. Thus drove I the poison of the air down into the vegetable kingdom, and hence into the animal world. Thus I purified the air of heaven. Verse 14. This was the first creation I created on this world. See that? This was the first creation. The serpent race. The serpent species. Carnivores. Feeding upon one another. Self-impregnating. See that? Of all sizes was the serpents, and they were poisonous also. And this was the first creation I created on this world. So that was the first creation, prior to man's creation. So that was the first creation, and man was the second creation. So let's see about that. Verse 14, this was the first creation I created on this world. Verse 15, then I overcast the earth with falling nebula, and covered up the poisonous growing upon the earth. And they were turned to oil and coil. See that? The oil we have under the earth is showing you these are fallen nebulas that fell from the atmosphere. You know when they talk about it in the Revelations, raining fire and brimstone? That's not a curse or nothing. That's nebula belts falling. When the earth travels through certain densities, nebula belts could break up and be drawn into the atmosphere. And that's exactly what happened. But look what it said. It said it covered up the poisonous growing upon the earth, and they were turned to oil and coal. We use oil for cars today. We use coal now. Those would be considered poisonous gases to men. But look where they're driven, below the earth, and now we use them for fossil fuel. But at one time, this same poison was within the vegetable kingdom or within the atmosphere. And look how it's now driven beneath the earth. So Oahspe is showing you early creation, pre-adamic, pre-man. And then it says I overlap. So the first creation was going on, and then falling nebulas came to cover up the poisonous bed. So there was a great destruction, a great overlay in order to set the next creation. And which was the next creation? Let's get into it. Let's read that verse one more time to get into it. Verse 15. Then I overcast the earth with falling nebula, and covered up the poisonous growing upon the earth, and they were turned to oil and coil. Verse 16, here's the catcher. Then I made a new creation, giving feet and legs and bones to the animals I designed for the earth. So now we had the first creation, now we're moving into a new creation, meaning he's giving animals feet, bones, and legs now, describing animals that'll be walking on the surface. Because like I said, the first animal was the reptile. That was the first, before the cows, before the lion, before the goats, before the hyenas, before all the animals was the reptile first. That was the first creation. And then it said what? Then I made a new creation, giving feet and legs. This is where your cows, your monkeys, your gorilla, all the other previous animals come in at. So it said again, then I made a new creation, giving feet and legs and bones to the animals I designed for the earth. And when the earth was ripe for man, then I created man. Male and female created I those of the second creation. See that? See that? So Oahspe is showing you the order from the animal, from the vegetable to the animal, and showing you what animal was the dominant, being a serpent. That's why the serpent is revered. Now you know. Because that's a vibes. Let's vibe out for a minute after that one. We getting deep with it.
It's a vibes.